You better have seasoning, aye. Girl, the way that you look, man, I know it ain't no easy thing, aye. My sauce and my mix and blend, we are seasoning, aye.
Welcome to APS, welcome back. Obviously the settings are a little bit different. Obviously Boris dictated that we stay in our yard, so we're trying to do things the safe way, you know? No masks, but that's how it goes. So yeah, call me Miles.
JFXJ.
Sonny Rana, cheers.
And Leo, you know the drill, and have a little sip on something whilst we're
we're all there. So lads, yeah. So I was having a conversation beginning of the week, right? And I'm not going to give the whole context because it's a bit long, but long story short, the difference between chemistry and compatibility. So if you've just met someone or you're with someone now, what is the difference between, so the question is twofold. What's the difference between chemistry and compatibility? And the second question is it one of those two things that you cannot have, but you can still be long-term with a partner, whether it's a man or a woman?
Oh, it's a good question, you know.
So for me, I would define chemistry as, or not define, but I would determine chemistry to be things like body language, like and same music, maybe your cultures are similar, you like the same jokes, similar sort of dress sense, like that kind of stuff would be to me chemistry. Because it can be sexual chemistry, intellectual chemistry, etc., etc.
Yeah.
Compatibility though is probably more tied into like your values. Do you want a family? Do you care for marriage? How are you fixed financially? Like what are your priorities and what are your non-priorities, I guess. So that will be the difference for me. And in terms of which one I think you could be without for it to go long term, I think neither of them. I think you have to have both.
So I wanna jump straight in.
And so Leo, you don't agree?
You know, listen, I want to jump straight in, right? Not on a disagreeing thing, not on an agreeing tip. I think what I want to do is actually add some definition to it. So, the luxury of being at home, maybe for this setting of the pod right now, is Google, and I'm going to give you definitions of
compatibility. Each. So I did this before. So chemistry, the first thing that will come up is science. So compatibility, it talks about. Go on,
let me finish. So obviously, chemistry, it basically says when two people have chemistry, it's usually definitive around the areas of similarity, attraction, mutual trust, effortless communication, a level of mystery, and non-judgment with certain things that they will or won't have done. So just to give a bit of an example with that, if you're talking about a chemistry of a person, some people say, oh, our chemistry was crazy, purely on account of the fact that the things that they had in common there were so many things that they had in common. You're like, oh my God, our chemistry was crazy, blah, 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 blah. So I think it's a good idea for us to start by defining what we're saying chemistry is. And then we move on to...
So I defined mine, I gave mine.
But off the back of that, all right. Go on, Jason. All right, just so I get it out. One, we always breaking it down. Mine was just going. My interpretation, I agree when you break it down technically, but my interpretation of chemistry and compatibility. Chemistry is your emotions and your heart. Yeah. Compatibility is your mind and your logic. Yeah. So when you have that chemistry with somebody, that's emotions going way up, heart's beating, you're feeling it. Yeah. And then I think chemistry comes first. Actually, we'll get into that. But yeah, chemistry, emotions, and what your heart's telling you. Compatibility, you start thinking, okay, you start to break it down, you start to get real, and that's the logic.
But let me ask you a question on that, right? So it sounds to me by those two definitions that chemistry is something that happens naturally and compatibility is something that happens intentionally. Is that what you're saying? So you make the effort to be compatible. I would disagree with that.
I wouldn't say you make the effort
Yeah.
to be compatible. I wouldn't say you make effort to be compatible. You start analyzing if it's a good match, if it's a good fit.
I think that
the easy way to define this is by people saying when you talk about compatibility, I think the easy way to define it is when people say this person ticks my boxes. That's the compatibility element. So
Logic.
That could be chemistry too, though. That could be chemistry too, though.
Don't get me wrong.
Nah.
I think a box can be chemistry, but I don't think you can have different elements of chemistry that can be a box tick exercise.
For example, chemistry could be, she's funny. That's chemistry. So that's a box that someone would tick in terms of.
But I don't think that's chemistry. That's a desirable trait. Let me
learn. Let's say you go on a first date, right, with a girl or guy or whichever, and you meet the girl, and you go away from the date where the next day your boy says, "Oh, wow, how was it last night? What's the date say?" Yeah, you know what? She's nice. She's pretty, man, but she's bare funny. We've had bare banter. That to me is chemistry. It doesn't necessarily mean you're compatible, but to me, it means there's chemistry there because you made each other laugh and you had a good time. The compatibility element of that is totally different.
I agree with what you're saying.
Yeah, but just because
that was the case, and every funny man will have things on lock.
I was gonna say that's just humor. That's just a connection on humor. You can laugh. I can laugh with someone and have no chemistry.
No, but I'm talking about on a romantic level, though.
But I can meet a girl and we can have a laugh.
Romanticism is something that is a person allows, though, because put it this way, right? You can go on a date with somebody that you have an intention to see in a romantic way, but it just doesn't turn out like that. They can have
you don't click.
Exactly.
That's the chemistry.
But they're funny though, or they're smart, and they have all the things. They have those little box ticks. That's what I'm saying. It's not the chemistry. I mean, the chemistry is as I was saying in terms of the Google definition. I'm not saying Google is all seeing. But I somewhat agree with the Google definition, because obviously we're talking about something that is almost it's non-physical. It's not something you can touch. It's not something you can necessarily point out. Like when
same for compatibility.
I think you can. With compatibility you can because okay, let's say for example, right? So however many episodes ago we was talking about what are the things that we all like in a person that we want. That's our compatibility. So we can put our finger on that. It's quite easy to say, do you know what? Okay, she's got a good job. Okay, she's intelligent. Okay, she's ambitious. Okay,
you can do that chemistry too, no?
Sorry?
You can do that with chemistry too, no?
So, all right, now you tell me what it is that defines chemistry for you.
No, I'm asking a question. So you said it's something that with compatibility, it's something you can put your hand on and say, I want her to be, I don't know, a family woman, for example, or have a good job.
No,
with
what
chemistry,
I believe Leo say. Sorry.
Go on. No, go on.
What I got from what Leo was saying is the compatibility side of things is the tangible elements. So the examples that he gave, you can see her go to work and you can see her career progression, but you can't see how much she makes you, like how much she might excite you. You know what I'm saying?
It's emotional. I think the chemistry is an emotional response to the person that you're dealing with. So when I
you can't physically measure that.
Yeah, for real. When I started dating my girl, when I saw her, it was like, all right, the chemistry is crazy, because straight off the bat, interaction was just mad. It was, I would say, it was like
after time.
No, not even initially. I was saying straight off the back, our conversation was dope. The way our humor matched up. The way we wanted to have conversations with each other on a frequent basis was mutual. Like all those things, the chemistry was all them things they were in synergy, or in sync, I should say. But I think that's what it is. I think it's the effortless joining of two people where their interests and their subconscious elements of things align. So you can have chemistry with somebody but not be compatible with somebody. And
Yeah,
I think
100%, 100%.
going back to your original point, I think you asked, can you have one without
One
the
without the
other
other.
in terms of a relationship? In a relationship, I think it's possible, but then define a relationship,
There's no way you can be. You can't be compatible with
how successful that relationship will be.
But listen,
is another question.
Like you can,
Sonny.
it's not. That's not.
Well, you can have realistically. What I think is you can have, kind of off the back of what Leo said, is you could have chemistry with a link because you know it's not going nowhere. You've got chemistry, but if it's to go somewhere, you've got to have chemistry and compatibility because you can't really be. You can go. There's some. You can meet a girl right now in the club and you say, "Yo, we've got bare chemistry," but you know it's not going further than this is what it is. You get me? Because we're not compatible in terms of my morals and your values. They ain't aligned, but we've got chemistry. So you have that. You can have chemistry with a link and you just do your thing. Yeah, fair enough. But you can't have chemistry and try and build a relationship where there's no compatibility. You can work.
It's impossible. Yeah.
Yeah. No chance.
Do you know why?
We all agree that chemistry comes first.
For example, imagine if. Okay, imagine now. For example, imagine if I'm like going down a career path and I'm like, yo, this is me for the next 10 years, and her mentality is get together, get married, have kids, start a family, or vice versa. Then she's chasing a career. I want to, have start a family. Then you're not compatible. You might have chemistry, but you're not compatible because my goals are aligned here, your lines are aligned here. So I think that.
So by that example,
I think chemistry is easy.
Really possible.
Yeah, I think chemistry is easy to have. I think it's very, very hard to find someone that you're compatible with. No, harder than
do you think that you can? So I think.
Watch this though. Not from my perspective or experience. I'm just thinking from another angle. Right? For example, I think it can be done. Compatibility without levels of chemistry, and again, not from my experience, but I'm just picturing different personality types. Yeah. So, for example, not my kind of thing to watch, but people love it. You see, Big Bang Theory. Yeah, you ever watch it?
Yeah.
So, for example, them lot are like super, like, you know what I mean, like bookworms or whatever. If you've got someone like, I don't know the names of the characters, but a serious full-time, I don't want to say geek because I'm a bit geek, but them kind of people there, yeah. And there's a man, and you've got and you've got a female version of that man. Yeah, all they think is pure logic. I'm talking like, Spock from Star Trek. He can't. Everything he does is logic. So you've got two people that think logically, on a high frequency, and they know that they're compatible on every level, regardless of chemistry. They just work on every level, and they give it a go because it just works. Get married, and blah 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 blah. So I think there's people like that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
100%.
I think that's a good point.
100% capability, compatibility on their views of life, but the chemistry is not there.
And I guess that's priority.
For example, sorry, just to cut in, I'll throw this out and you can take it wherever. For example, say someone's 45 to 50, been married 2 times, didn't work out, and then but they still want a woman or a man in their life. They meet someone, they're just ready to have a companion. Yeah. Just so they've got someone to do life with. Compatibility is there. They do life together.
In order to enjoy that though, I think there needs to be chemistry. Whether or not they care about enjoying it.
There can be humour though, but there's humour. They can have humour, you can still laugh.
In order to enjoy
just an example.
For you, there needs to be chemistry. That's because
100%,
remember
1,000%.
And no, I'm not saying not you, Jay. I'm saying Marlon. Marlon said to enjoy it, there has to be chemistry. But from what you're saying, Marlon, is from your perspective, there has to be chemistry. Because
obviously, always I can only talk from my perspective.
I completely agree with Jay. And do you know what, Jay? You kind of beat me to the punch with that. I 100% agree with you because there are many people who date with intention or marry with intention based on whatever it is a person represents as opposed to what it is that they have in terms of a relationship. So someone might say, you get plenty of women. Look how many women there are, and I'm going to get onto the men as well. But look how many women there are that will say, I'm only going to date a man that has X amount or earns this amount or that means they're slimming the pool of men that are able to link up with them and then be taken seriously. So if a woman says, right, a guy that earns less than 100K a year, I'm not interested. That is compatibility. But that same woman will still marry that same man regardless of the compatibility, because what she's done is she said there are certain things criteria-wise that I require from a man, and these are the things that I want. When some people get those things, they are happy to settle with that and don't necessarily care about the compatibility. Everybody's different.
You know what?
So
I'll give you a prime
that's
example.
why I say it's just from a perspective.
Sorry, can I slam one thing?
You
know what you described, Leo? You see a lot in Asian culture. So obviously, you know, people get it's not happening so often now. Arranged marriages, it's all of compatibility. 100%. There's no chemistry because they can't really date. Do you get me? So it's just like, yo, has he or she got a good job? Has he or she got a good income? Does he or she come from a good family? Does he or she tick this, that box, that, you know what I mean? And then it's after I get married, okay, now you like figure out the chemistry on the back end. And sometimes it works out brilliantly in a lot of cases. Sometimes it don't, you get me? But that is based just off, like you were saying, that's based just off, let me tick these boxes. They'll tick. Cool. You two are good now. What do you think? Like, it? So yeah, that's exactly where you're coming from.
So I'll give you a prime example, right? So I know a girl who she I cannot use detail. I know a girl whose current situation is that she's a mum, she's married, like got a house, like, and that was always the thing she wanted, right? So when say like
hella details as usual, boy.
Nah, but 7-8 years ago.
Detail ass guy, bro.
Brother, relax and listen, enjoy the story, take a sip. It's all right. So 7-8 years ago now, she was single, looking for a man. Sonny, looking for a man or whatever. And I remember her saying, "All I want is to be married and have kids." That's it. She wasn't bothered about necessarily who it was and whatever. Obviously, not be like an abusive man and whatever else. But she moved from where she's initially from to somewhere else and found that person, had kids, whatever, and is somewhat happy, right? However, the chemistry element of that relationship isn't there. But the compatibility side of it, in terms of my fulfillment, is marriage, house, kids. That person's giving me all three of those things. However, the chemistry side of thing isn't there.
See, I'm gonna be typical me, and you lot.
Hey, Sonny, why are you cracking up?
But Sonny's laughing because he's saying I'm always disagreeing for the sake of
I was laughing because I thought I knew who Marlon was talking about. So I was
okay.
Yeah, that's what I was laughing. Go on, Leo. What was you saying? Sorry.
I'm gonna disagree with you on that because what you spoke about was the end result. Huh?
That's a real story. You can't disagree with me.
No. I'm not disagreeing with the story. Guy, bro.
Man said, "Nah,
with factual information."
That's an actual situation.
So I'm not contesting the situation itself. I'm saying that the example you gave isn't compatibility versus chemistry circumstance, because you've given an outcome. The outcome is completely different to the circumstance in relation to compatibility and chemistry, because the compatibility is, do you want to get married? Do you want to have children? Do you want to this? What do you have that? Do you have? So they were compatible to a degree in terms of maybe what they wanted, but were they compatible as people? And I suppose I don't
think that, but that's contradicting what you said previously about about Jay that said, if you've got two bookworms, let's call them, and their only priority really is just to get married, have kids, and focus on whatever it is in terms of their intellect. Chemistry, they're not bothered about.
Jay didn't say that.
He's talking about Big Bang Theory.
No, he said the likelihood of them being able to connect is higher because the way they think is very much aligned. So when you're aligned in your thought processes, in your goals, your ambitions, whatever it might be, those things, even be it humor. Obviously, you mentioned someone being funny. When you're aligned in the things you find funny as well, they are things that add to chemistry. I think that's, correct me if I'm wrong, Jay, but I'm just saying, I think that's what you were saying. They were
But hold up. So what part of what the story I was telling, you were saying, you're going on to say you disagree with the example being used as chemistry versus compatibility. So
yeah,
the point I was making by telling that story was that the intent for those people that I was mentioning was that they both wanted to have kids, get married, and get a house. That was the compatibility side in terms of preference. That's their goals, and they reached them. As we sit here now, in terms of chemistry, that doesn't exist between them because it just doesn't. And maybe it's because they bypass certain elements of the relationship to get to where they want to get to, and therefore didn't have time to see if there was chemistry. You get it?
So I suppose maybe, as opposed, rather than disagreeing then with the example you gave, maybe what I'm trying to say is, are we talking about compatibility between people or compatibility between end goals? Because what we were describing in terms of compatibility earlier,
where you define it as?
No, I'm saying what we were defining as compatibility earlier in the conversation was, has a good job, is intelligent, knows what they want from life, blah 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 blah, this, that, and the other. Those were elements of compatibility, and the knows what you want from life. Obviously, I'm not saying having a child or children, getting married, and having a family on things that you can align on, that contribute to compatibility. But I'm saying compatibility as people, that they are all end goals. They're not anything to do with what do you like. I like the same thing.
Yeah, that's
what do you
different.
want?
So,
I want the same thing. See what I'm saying?
What about if the girl or the guy, they like the fact that they're working towards his goals, and the other partner is, well, I like the fact that I'm working towards something completely different, then you're not compatible?
Let me give a prime example. Let's talk about a job interview, right? So Leo, remember that episode we did and you're talking about how going into the building was bad, and there was two things that go into the coffee and whatever, and how they sold you a dream, whatever. So let's say you three interviewing me, and let's say, Leo, you're bothered about kind of the team fit. Would I fit into the business? Would I work? Sonny and Jay are more concerned about what value do I bring to the business?
This guy's got a better beard than me. We can't employ him, man.
That's gonna be. I'm never gonna get a job then, innit? I guess.
You know what I'm saying? I said we can't employ this guy, bro. You know what I'm saying.
But what I'm saying is that the team fit part is the chemistry that we're talking about, yeah. And then the value in terms of what skills can I contribute to the business, whether it's marketing, IT, sales, whatever. Those two questions are for the same purpose as me as a person or as an employee, but they're different in terms of your expectation from me. So that's why I would say that chemistry and compatibility, they can tie in together for what you were saying, Leo, but at the same time, they can be totally separate. And I think that they are. So when you're talking about can people be compatible, go on, Jay.
The reason why I think that job example would be slightly different to a relationship is because the two people looking at what value somebody can add to the company compared to the person looking at what
team fit
they would be like with the people. At the end of the day, what you're like in that environment, what you're like with people would already be a smaller percentage compared to what you can bring to the company at the end of the day. Yeah, because if you can bring more value to the company at performance level, you can be a prick. No matter if it's a sales company or a sales job, and you don't get on with everybody, yeah, but you're top earner, you think they care about it. So anyway, think about it. Really, if you want a hot salesperson in your company, are you bothered that they don't go, to lunch with the whole team?
Would you get through the front door if you weren't?
I think what Jay's saying
for the company, though.
I think what Jay's saying
my whole goal, just to get my point, is it will come down to the overall goal. End of the day, it will come down to what means more to you.
I disagree. I've been in quite a few job interviews where a lot of before you even get to that, the question is like, what would you be as a good fit? And obviously, a lot of the kind of places I've worked have been kind of relaxed and whatever, rather than more corporate. So team fit is massive because whilst, for example,
it's a goal.
How do you mean?
You're 100% right. Team for years, and it was Google or Apple. I think it was Apple, or one of the two started it. They changed the whole dynamic of work-based culture and rippled across the whole world.
Yeah, Google.
So now, the day that we live in now, work-based culture is huge. So you're right.
100%.
But it's a goal of the company. You see what I'm saying?
It's like,
To bring in people to
bring in
goal,
people, exactly. There was a time where it weren't a thing. My examples were just different examples of how it comes to the goal of the individual. If compatibility means more to you than chemistry, that's what you're going to wait for. That's what you're going to look for.
It's like
in my opinion.
It's like with I know this isn't a bang on example, but like with football, for example, you can have like a bad boy striker in your team who might be a bit arrogant and that not everyone gets along with, but because he bangs goals.
He bangs goals. Yeah. Very example.
Prime example is back in the day. A lot of people used to say at Arsenal that not everyone got on with Ian Wright, but you can't drop Ian Wright. You get me? He was the man. So it's just like they had to. Fair. Okay, it might not be compatible with the whole team, but we have to have him there because he bangs goals. Same thing happened with Roy Keane at United. I know he fell out with a lot of people behind the scenes, but the presence he brings to the team.
Yeah, you can't deny it.
You could rub people the wrong way, but you want a Roy Keane.
Let me.
You want them.
I want to give you
is there a balance?
I was going to spin it as well. I wanted to spin it quickly.
Is there a balance for that though? Because obviously you can have someone that delivers amazing results for your organization, your football team, in a relationship, whatever it might be. Obviously, relationship you said was slightly separate, but you can have someone that's delivering great results, but you can also disturb the balance of whatever is already existing.
The morale.
So imagine.
It depends where your goals are aligned to. If your goals are short term, you can do it. If they're long term, no, you can't do it anymore.
And this, I think this is where there are so many different moving parts between chemistry and compatibility, because it depends on what you're looking for. So if you look at someone like us, Sonny, obviously you're engaged, and we're early 30s, right? And none of us have kids at the moment. None of us are married at the moment. But obviously, Sonny, you being engaged, your circumstances are different to everybody else's. Yeah. So, Jay, for you, your circumstance, and I'm not speaking for you. I'm just saying from the perspective of a single person. Your perspective, maybe there's many single people in the world that might say, right, I'm early 30s. There's men and women that might just think, I need to get married, I need to have some kids.
Have kids.
Your goals are different to what they were 5 to 7 years ago. Whereas before you might say, I want to meet the right person so I can spend the rest of my life with that person. Now,
before doing those things,
the weight of what is more important has potentially changed for some people, depending on where you are in life. And the same with organizations, the same with relationships, whatever it might be. And like I said, from my humble opinion, I just think there's a lot of moving parts to this, and obviously we can only speak from our own perspectives in terms of where we're coming from.
And that's what it's all going to come down to.
100%.
Yeah, always.
End of the day. Now, what your goal is only going to reflect where you are in life.
Yeah, always. Let me spin this and drop a kind of follow-up question. Yeah. So let's say you meet someone. Let's say we're all single. Yeah. And we're in the kind of dating game. We're like you said, we're early 30s. We're looking to kind of get serious, settle down, all that. You meet a person you really like. There's a lot of chemistry there. And then maybe it goes from like say you're a year in, and you're starting to figure out if you're compatible or not. But you're realizing that let's say we're 37. Well, give it whatever whatever time stamp you need, 6 months or whatever. Let's say Jay's like, what? Yeah. So let's say that after some time, you're starting to think, all right, cool. Are we compatible? Is this going to work long term? Is this what I want long term? Do you think that someone who you meet, where the chemistry is all the way up here, but you haven't quite figured out the chemistry, but your first impression is, I don't think we are. Do you think you can not force?
Say that again. Sorry. You said chemistry twice. Do you mean chemistry or compatibility? So the chemistry is up here, but you're figuring out chemistry. What do you mean?
Sorry, chemistry is up here, but the compatibility you're not sure of. Do you think that you can influence the compatibility because the chemistry is so high, and you think, surely we've got to work because we get on so well? Do you think you can influence that because you like someone so much, or do you think?
I think
long term it wouldn't work out because you're not actually compatible.
I think I'm speaking just from experience here, but obviously, me and my missus has got chemistry. We're pretty much compatible as well. But there's things that I've adapted to that she was more in line with. I'm sure there's things on her side she's adapted to that I was more in line with. But we were on a we was kind of headed in the same direction anyway. But I think like even now, like I reckon if we had something that we was way off on, for example, maybe it was just like I want to move in the next year, and she was saying, I'm willing to wait, I want to save some more money, I'm willing to move in the next, say, 5-6 years. As long as the chemistry is there and we know where we're going, I think we can move on it.
There can be a compromise.
I think it'd be harder if we were compatible, but there's no chemistry. That
makes sense. That makes sense.
Then are you just driving towards a goal, but are you ever going to be happy when you get to that goal? Because once you hit the goal, then it's like, yo, well, shit, now it's just us two and we're not even, there's nothing there, like, you get me? Whereas if you've got chemistry, I think everything else can kind of, it's important, but I think you can work on it. As long as there's a common ground, can't be just here and here, you get me?
So you would say that chemistry, if there's no compatibility, the chemistry can somewhat improve the compatibility?
To an extent. As long as there's like a common ground there. Do you get what I mean? Like, I'm not saying it has to be exactly bang on, like, yo, I want this, and the other person says, I want the same, I'm saying, but as long as you've got good chemistry, I think that you'll go to that point where you're like, well, you know what, if this is what she wants, let me lean towards this, and I'm sure she'll be like, if this is what he wants, let me lean towards this, and you'll meet somewhere in the middle. But I think the other way around, having compatibility, but the chemistry is not there. But imagine trying to like build chemistry. It doesn't even sound right. Like,
no, of course.
That's why I say it's chemistry, it's emotional. Feel it. You don't feel it. You can't force something. You can't force the feeling.
You can't.
It's like,
feelings, I believe, are triggered.
It's like at uni now. Imagine how many raves we've been to at uni, how many nights out we've been to. Imagine chemistry is the night out. You know within the first 10 minutes whether it's a vibe or not. You know it.
100%.
Like, yo,
I disagree.
Or I'm going. Nah.
I disagree. It's gonna in that scenario, it's gonna take way more than 10 minutes to decide.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? Like, you know what it's gonna be like.
Nah, do you know why? Because you can go into a dance. Leo, do you remember when we went to that thing in the warehouse, bro? Do you remember?
Oh yeah.
Bro, when we got there, it was empty, bro. We was just at the bar drinking and busting joke and talking and whatever. Do you remember the end of the night?
Yeah, it was dope. It was dope.
You see what I'm saying? That's why that example, you can't walk into a dance, give it 10 minutes. I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
But
I get
if you've made the effort
to go out and to dress up. I'm late to everything, so I'm walking the dance. I'm always late, so I'm just there. But I agree with
if it ain't lit when he arrives, he's going yard, bro.
That's what I'm saying.
All right, but watch this though.
Sometimes I don't
bring it back. Bring it back to what you said, Marlon. The scenario that you gave. I think, from my perspective, at that point, when X amount of time's gone, and you start to look at the depth of the relationship or whatever's going on, chemistry high, compatibility is questionable. I believe at that point, everything now is a choice, because you know enough to start making choices if you want to continue this. If you know the chemistry is there, and you know what is your level or criteria for compatibility, and the other person should be as well, at that point, both of you need to start choosing and deciding, okay, this is what I want. They don't do it that much, but I choose to accept that. This is what I want. Okay, with a bit of work, we can get here, but I choose to put that work in. From that point on, the progression will be down to the choices that you make if you want them. If you like that chemistry that much, you've got some choices to make if you want to continue.
So you also say that the chemistry can influence the compatibility or improve, sorry.
It can influence, it can, I believe it can, but that's when the work comes in.
So I wanna jump in, and I get what you're saying. I think maybe the wording around chemistry influencing compatibility is slightly off. And the only reason why I would say that is because compatibility is compatibility. They're all tangible. So they're all tick box exercise. You either have it or you don't have it. So I don't.
What about compromise?
So this is what I'm saying. This is my point. So this is where it comes in. So it's actually more about acceptance as opposed to compatibility. So where somebody isn't necessarily compatible in a specific isolated area, you either accept or you don't accept. I think that's what it is. So for me, you guys know me, I'm a clean freak. Like I like neatness. I don't like to see mess, all that sort of stuff.
You
like
are still.
if I'm gonna be with a person, the preference is to be with somebody who is also clean and also holds that in high regard. But is that something that I can't move on, or is it something that I can move on? And that's the question. So I don't necessarily think it's about influencing something. I think it's more, what are you prepared to accept and what aren't you going to accept? And I think it's a bit of the you guys know about the 80-20 rule, right? Obviously, they say when you meet a person that you like and you think you want to spend the rest of your life with that person and whatever else, they'll have 80% of what you want and 20% of what you don't necessarily want. Now, with that being the case, you have the option to accept that or not accept it. And that 20% you might see elsewhere, right? You might, then we all know, obviously, male and female, there are temptations out there, and you can be drawn into, or you can be put in situations where you don't necessarily want to be in. But regardless, you can see that 20% in somebody else and think, right, that person's now got everything that I want. But really what you're getting is only 20%. So you're leaving 80% for 20. And now you go and you get the thing that you say that you wanted, or the things that you're not seeing with the person that you want. And then you jump ship or whatever it might be, or you cheat, or male or female, and you go off with this person, and then you realize, right, this person cleans and she cooks well, or this guy, he's loyal and this, but he's got no ambition, or do you know what I'm saying? So you lose 80% of what you had and you go for 20% of what you didn't.
So let me give you an example. So what you were saying about the clean freak thing, right? So let's say that you're a clean freak, you like things orderly, etc. Everything has a home type situation, and you meet someone who doesn't. You meet someone who doesn't necessarily have that as a priority. It's not to say that they won't do it, but they're not really bothered about it. Whereas for you, that's like number one of top five, for example. Personally, I think that it's not a case where, and this is why I say I agree with Sonny, where he said about if you've got chemistry, and there's something that you aren't compatible about, the chemistry will help you. Maybe influence, not the right word, but it will help you compromise so that your compatibility is aligned. So with you with the cleaning thing, if you meet someone who isn't really fussed about being clean and tidy and in order, it's not necessarily about the 80-20 thing. So you kind of disregard it because she can't do it. It's more of a case of having a conversation which is where the chemistry comes in. This is what I found valuable to me. I want to be clean and tidy and whatever. Are you willing to do that? And then that's for me where the chemistry starts to link into, can we then be compatible? Because then maybe she's like, you know what, it's important to you, cool, like, let's do it. And after some time, she might feel that was always the best way to go. Therefore, on the cleaning side, you're both now compatible. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I get what you're saying. I don't entirely agree, but yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I've got a point. So from what, and this is my opinion. Like, I'm not sticking on anyone or saying that it's a general consensus, but I think personally, you can fall in love with someone. You can fall in love with the chemistry of someone, but you're never going to fall in love with just compatibility with someone.
Yeah, of course. That's why it's an emotion thing. Like
depends on your personality.
Seconds, right?
I'd say it would depend on your personality.
But is that
I don't think you can fall in love with compatibility. The compatibility in someone.
But if that's what means the most to somebody, why wouldn't you?
But then, I don't think it will work.
I know you're saying,
it's down to the individual.
My thing is, like, okay, so like I was saying before, once you reach them kind of goals where you're compatible to, so for example, your compatibility is that you want this and your partner wants this, and you get to that point, because relationships are cycling. It starts here, you go around it. Like an ideal relationship is you start here, you get to know each other, you carry on, you get engaged, you carry on, you get married, either before or after you have some kids, and then you come back to the cycle where your kids grow up, they leave the house, and it's you two again. When you get back to that part of the cycle, that's when the chemistry's going to slap you in the face and be like, yo, now that
That's a very good. That's a good.
point. You get me? That's
a
why I
good
think the
point,
same
yeah.
thing is like with a lot of like, and obviously I know it's a different kind of world, but a lot of celebrities, I think they feel they're compatible. You're rich, I'm rich, you're in the limelight, I'm in the limelight. They have kids and then they break up quick because it's like, oh shit, now I realize that, you know what, we was compatible because I'm getting chased by the press, you're getting chased by the press, I can't go here, you can't go there. But now we've started this life and I realized that, yo, shit, actually, no, I didn't even like you that much. Like, you get me? Because you understand my lifestyle, I understand your lifestyle, because we're both in that kind of element.
I think personality traits come into it a lot as well, though. And compatibility, I think you can be compatible with someone and you can have mad chemistry with somebody. But I think right now we're living in an age where everything is so accessible, it's unbelievable. And we all, for whatever it is, whether it's a partner, whether it's a phone, whether it's a laptop, television, everything is so accessible. If something isn't doing what we want at the time we want it, a lot of the time people jump ship and say, right, okay, EE fucked up. Let me go Vodafone. All right, Vodafone fucked up. Let me. Do you know what I'm saying?
It's a moving era, isn't it?
Bang on.
Well, they call it the microwave era.
We don't want to put no words
everyone wants stuff now.
Now, the social media era now, and everyone's coming up now in the era, they don't want to put no work in.
Oh yeah.
This much wrong. I'm going to this thing. It's this much. It's not like
of course.
I'm gone.
And you know what the wickedest thing was? I reckon some of our parents and grandparents' relationships lasted a lot longer, and you see in our communities, right, where our parents, or for those of us who have been married or are married, I know Sonny, your parents are still married. Like a lot of them, they say it's a ride or die. It was ride or die back then, but I think more so it was because of the fact that they weren't as exposed to so much. Two, there was a lot of shame in divorce and separation. Three, I just reckon, like, when look at the telephone, right? Back then they was writing letters to motherfuckers. Yeah. There weren't no text, there weren't no, you know what I'm saying? Accessibility was limited. So when you talk about accessibility to other people, you more or less had to work at what you have. And in the long term, you see the benefits of that. I think the problem is now, because everybody is so fickle and because everybody sees what else is out there. Look, tomorrow, if any one of us was decide to break up with whoever we're with, and say, right, I want a new girl, someone you can let's say June 21st comes, you hit a club, you know what I'm saying? Or you jump on Tinder, or you jump on Hinge, or if you're into the internet dating thing or whatever. Like, there's so much accessibility. It's a swipe left, swipe right thing. You can have girls and guys on tap, like just like that. You don't have to wait around for nobody. And I think
what that takes me back to? The 80-20 thing, 80-20 rule you mentioned earlier, where something my mum said to me ages ago is, if you've got a girl, so kind of piggybacking off what you said earlier, if you've got a girl who cooks, cleans, she's, I don't know, got her own business and whatever, but she's not into fitness, for example, then you'd be like, you know what, that ain't for me. Let me go find a girl who's into fitness. But that girl you've just met, the other things on your list, like her cooking and cleaning, maybe, she doesn't have that. And then you're like, oh, nah, let me move to someone else. So constantly you're changing. So mum was like, no matter what happens, if you end, whether it's a relationship or you're seeing someone, if you end that based on something that they don't have because you put it high on your list, the next person after that is going to have the same thing, but it might be something else on your list. So why not just try and compromise on the thing that they don't have and see if you can make it work, if that makes sense? Because otherwise you're always going to be moving around.
It just depends on if you're movable.
You're just chasing your tail, because you're never going to get. No matter what you're never going to get perfection.
So then you could argue, based on that, you could argue: do you wait for what you want, or just try the next?
I don't think there's any such thing as the right time. You know when they say like, oh, I want to wait for the right one. You'd be waiting all your life. You never the person you meet, whether it's a girl meeting a guy or vice versa, the person you meet is never perfect. They only become perfect in your eyes eventually.
Never said
because
perfection.
you've been with them for a certain period of time. Say again.
I said I didn't say perfection. I said waiting for what you want.
No. Yeah, I wasn't disagreeing with you. I'm just saying, like, from my perspective, I feel like it's a case where people become perfect in your eyes over time, rather than when you meet them, you never. If you've got 10 things on your list, you're very, very rarely going to meet a person who's got all 10 things of those things on their list.
Do you think you can meet a person and the chemistry and the compatibility is at 10, then over time, do you reckon it can start dropping?
I don't think compatibility can reduce.
Yeah.
I think chemistry can. Definitely chemistry can.
Because you know what?
Because it's emotion, isn't it?
I'm giving that example here because, and obviously this might sound stupid, but when I first started supporting Arsenal, we was winning everything. We had good chemistry, we was compatible, we had trophies, and now the chemistry's still there. I love the compatibility, like we was winning trophies, and now we're down here. You get me?
I hear that.
All right, but then watch this though. Yeah, but watch this though. Yeah, with that example you just give there, right? Good example.
You're saying the times are tough.
So how do you feel about them today? After what you just said now, how do you feel about them today?
I'm a mug in it. I'm just a sucker for love because I got a season ticket, so I'm just. There's not even. I got to my cup now. You'll see every single Arsenal shirt you could think of in there, bro.
Arsenal is the girl that keeps cheating on you and you keep going back.
I was going to say that.
That's what Arsenal are.
Oh man, don't worry. It's my fault. It's my fault. Don't worry about it. Come back.
Of course.
But I wanna kind of like get us to a conclusion, because you started off with a question, Miles, and obviously the question was, do you need both? Can you do one without the other? Blah. I think we should go around and summarize what we feel based on everything that we've discussed. So Marlon, obviously you introduced the conversation. I want you to kickstart it. You said it in the start, but I think a little reminder of what you think and feel.
So for me, I would say chemistry I'd definitely second what Jay said about the kind of emotional side of it. Chemistry are the things that you seek out, be it conscious or subconscious, emotionally. So the humor, the likes in music, film, dance, etc. They're the things that always come first. When you go on your first dates, when you go on walks around the lake, when you're having 4-hour phone calls at 2 a.m, that's the chemistry that you're building. It's not even compatibility probably isn't even a thought at that point, because you're enjoying the chemistry of getting to know someone. As time goes on, as I mentioned earlier on about kind of seeing someone perfect over time, that's where the compatibility comes out. And to answer my own question about whether or not I think it can influence compatibility, I do think it can. I think you can have chemistry, and then similar to what Sunny was saying, where if you do hit roadblocks or obstacles, the strength of that chemistry will probably likely see you through, so that you can compromise and become compatible. That's what I would say.
I like that.
Watch this though, right? Off the back of that, I do agree that chemistry is one of the first elements that presents itself. But I also now, just when you was talking, I was just thinking about how now I also believe that compatibility can trigger chemistry. So you can be with someone and then you can meet somebody and the chemistry is nice. And the more you spend time with them in that moment, obviously you're talking about different things you both enjoy talking about, different topics. You then start to see yourself more and more, ticking more and more boxes based on the conversation. So in essence, you can't have one without the other, but both of them trigger and fuel each other for you to ultimately make a decision. It all comes down to making a choice of what means the most to you while you're figuring all that out at the same time. We all have a choice and we will always choose what means the most to us. That's my conclusion.
I'd say, for me, what I'd say is that I'd say chemistry is a thing that you fall in love with, and then compatibility is a thing that you both work towards. So I think that you have the chemistry, you fall in love, and then you work towards compatibility. And obviously, if you're not compatible, like we've seen it, we've probably all gone through as well, you can be in love and it doesn't go to where you think it's going to go. And it's because it just wasn't compatible long term. So that's what I think.
Can I interrupt you there and ask a question? You said the word love, yeah? Do you think that you can fall in love with someone without being compatible?
Yeah, but I think it doesn't work. That's
Fair enough. Yeah.
I think you can fall in love with the chemistry. Is like we've got, because like what Jay was saying, I agree with him. Like chemistry is an emotion, it's a vibe. It's like what you feel with someone. So you can fall in love with the feeling, but then like we've probably got examples in our own lives. It's probably been partners. Like we love this person, but we know it's never going to go nowhere because it's not compatible.
Is that infatuation then?
It could be. It might just be the emotions and mixed up in it. It could be, but at the time, it might not feel like that. But yeah, I'm saying that's what I think. I think that chemistry is what what leads you to fall in love, and then compatibility is what takes you long term.
I agree with that.
I respect it. I think for me personally, I would say that chemistry and compatibility are important for me personally in synergy. I don't necessarily think it's essential for everybody to have both, to have a relationship that is deemed successful by them. But I suppose for me, I would say it's essential to have the chemistry as well as the compatibility element. But as a caveat, I'll add that obviously these are all moving parts and they can all change at various points. Sonny, or Sonny or Marlon, I can't remember who mentioned it, but obviously there was something that was said around falling in love with a person that isn't necessarily compatible, or also the mention of influencing compatibility through chemistry. Now, these are the moving parts that all literally can change depending on what your circumstances are at any one time. So, as you guys said, you could be going through a bad patch. Look at Arsenal Football Club. When you first started supporting them, baddest team in the UK, or one of the top two clubs, you go through a bad patch, and then it's now defined as, you know what, I'm a sucker for punishment. I'm a glutton for this team, and I don't know why I stick around. Now I think that's the same mentality some people have with relationships. It's you know what, regardless of the bad times, this is the person that I'm sticking with. This is where I'm trying to be, because you know it fits you at your core. And I think that's what it is. I think it's about knowing what fits you as a person, what works for you, and that can be having compatibility and no chemistry. That can be having chemistry and no compatibility, or it can be the two together. So I just think it's about what works for any which person is talking about the circumstance at the time. But that's
let me ask one question, and we can wrap up and call it a day. But so if you had to pick one of the two, can only pick one. So you meet someone and you have one of those things for the rest of your life, which one are you picking? No explanations, just pick one.
That's a tough question,
Chemistry.
Yeah, I think I'd go chemistry.
I think I would go compatibility.
Jay?
I said chemistry.
Chemistry, yeah.
Marlon, you and me always disagree, but I'm gonna be on your side this time. I'm gonna go compatibility.
The longevity thing.
For me, the reason for me.
No. We don't need that.
No reasons.
Just a quick thing.
Till next time.
Yeah, for real.
Long story short, it's better to have love than lost than never
to have love. Is that what you're
exactly?
Gonna say?
That's what I'm saying. That's it.
All right, lads. APS gang. Let's
enjoy your evening.
Call it a day. Have a good one.
Cheers, man. Enjoy your evening. Cheers,
Take it easy. In a bit.